Hi, this is Joe at Joe's Test Studio. Hi, I'm Joe from Cheap Joe's, and I'd like to show you one of my all-time favorite things to do with my art. And I'm a very simple, almost self-taught artist, I guess you could say. I've studied with a lot of different artists, but my art's still simple, but I love doing it. I love the process, and that is making greeting cards. It's just so much fun. I'm a member of the Whiskey Painters of America, and if you know about them, you know that they paint on no more than 20 square inches, which is 4 by 5, and basically that's what this is. This is a 4 by 5 card that we're going to be painting this morning. I've already drawn it out. When you buy the Goof-proof card box, you get these little watercolor paper that are this size, which is Kilimanjaro paper. You get 140 and 300 pound. You get the greeting card to mount it on, which I'll be showing you. And you get an envelope to mail it in. So it's the whole shooting match, so to speak. Basically, I like to keep the top part certainly wet in wet. So I start out by just painting a really nice, clean cobalt, but fairly rich, to the sky area. And sometimes I'll turn it upside down. That makes it easier to do. And I will do that in this case. And I simply come in here and watching where I want the snow to be, I will fill in the cobalt blue, painting negatively around the tree, because it keeps the tree, you could paint right over the tree, but it keeps it a little cleaner to do this around the tree. And if you miss a spot or two, don't worry about it, because it's easy to come back and paint over it. Also, it can look like little areas of flickers of snow in the air if we miss a little bit. So it's not a big deal. Won't take but a minute to lay this in, and it's so much fun doing this. And if you can see it, you would see it's very, very wet. And hopefully it'll stay wet for a couple of minutes, giving me time to... Now it is, and it's still wet. And now I'm going to add some color to the base of this down here, because the sky doesn't come all the way down there. It comes down behind that, of course. But this is the little forest down here. So I'm going to add some more color in here where the forest is at the base. And that's going to be about it. I may bring this one all the way up there. So that's the first step in doing this. We'll let it dry now, and then we'll move on to the next step. Well, it's about dry now, and so we're going to move on. We're going to put in the little lake that's here in the mountains, that's the snow's reflecting off of, and we'll put it in really dark, and we're going to lighten some of the areas, but initially it's going to be very dark. Actually, in the snow, things appear much darker than they really are. So we will go ahead and put them in darker. And then we can scrub out a little bit, and it will kind of give us a highlight. So there we have the little water in. Now I'm going to lift a little bit of this color out of there for the reflection of the snowbank that's behind it. So I take a thirsty brush. That's a brush that's really clean and really dry. And I simply come in here and pull out some of the color. Look there, you can see it coming up right there. Clean the brush again, dry it, and go over it again. Clean the brush, dry, and lift it out. Now it's really coming. Look at that. Woo! This is so pretty. And then I'll come back in here on this side and lift some out, clean the brush, dry it. You have to clean the brush and dry it every time. It's no big deal. And we'll lift some out right through there. And now we let that dry. Now we're going to put in the trees, the base of the trees, and After that, we're getting pretty much home free. We'll start over here with this one. This comes up here like that and across. The light's going to be coming this way. So I'll simply pull that dark color right up through there. We'll leave it really light against this darker stuff right there. And put a little shadow on that one there. Perhaps a little shadow on that one and that one. Light, and then we must darken it again where it appears down here. Like that, little shadow. And while that's wet, we'll touch it here and there, and that'll give us a little texture into the tree. There we go, there's that tree. Pretty, what was it Bob Ross used to say, happy little tree. This is a happy little tree right here. Not to copy Bob, but he was so well liked when he was here painting with us on this side of the earth. So again, we'll come right up through here with our little, I'm adding some water to my tree color because I want it lighter where we have the darker areas in there. That'll work. And then we have a tree right there. That's got to be darker also. But we can do that in just a second. And I took you out of the painting there. I probably shouldn't have done that, but we're going to make it work. I'm going to lift a little color out that side of that tree because the light's coming that way and it would be in there that way. I'm going to darken just a little on here and there on this tree. That's better. Now then, we'll let that dry just for a minute, and then we'll put our shadows in and a little grass, and we're home free. Now then, I'm going to mix up a little shadow color, and for that, I'm simply going to use a little bit of ultramarine blue and some rose madder to make a little violet color, a little puddle of it, kind of wet. And because everything's dry, I can just come in here. Remember, the light's coming this way. That means that the tops of these, the light's coming that way. This is going to be darker back there, all the way up to there. So we'll go right along here with that. Lighter in there, darker. And right over there, we're coming across here like that. That defines that snowdrift back there. Same way over here. We got a little white right back in there on the edge of that. And let's leave a little bit of light along the creek bank there. There we go. And now let's put in some color right. This is going to be darker right here. And that's going to come down there. This is darker down in here, the way that's laying in there. And then we'll soften that on top back here. Yeah, now we're coming. And now we're getting it laid in pretty good, aren't we? Let's take a thirsty brush again and lift just a little bit of color right out of the top of this. I got a little more in there than I wanted to, so I'm just going to lift out a little bit. And let's lift a little bit right in here. Actually going to soften that right in there. That'll work. And I'm going to add a little bit of warm color here at the base of this rock right in here where the rock itself is actually sticking up. And here the same way, we have the rock kind of coming out of the earth, and perhaps we have a rock here and one here that's showing. Maybe over here we have a little bit of rock. And this tree is back there that way. Maybe a little darker right there and there. Just a few little accents of dark. Now then, we're going to add some little detail down in here in the way of some grasses that are down, coming out of these crevices down in here. And just a little bit, they always seem to add a little touch of, give it a depth is really what I'm trying to say. They give it a little depth down in there. And I would usually hold this brush up like at the tip up here and give some stuff that's coming out of the corner down here. I get carried away with this sometimes, but I think this is going to be okay. I've done this very, very quickly, and sometimes I get in a hurry and I should slow down. So bear with me and forgive me if it doesn't work quite like it. But that's going to be our little card right there. Now then, we've got to put it on the greeting card and see what it looks like. I think I let it get a little darker than I would like to, so to give it a little more life, I'm going to spatter it with a little bit of snow. And I simply use the titanium white paint, which is the same as gouache. And I put a little paint out on this gator board here. Squeeze just a little bit, it won't take very much. And I take a discarded toothbrush and I wet it well. And I always have a tissue in this hand, and then I soften this up just a little bit with water right there. And then I turn it up this way, take the tissue and touch it down there, and I see how it's spattering there. Now then, I simply give it, oh yeah, look at that. Oh, that's nice spatter. Yes, and that's it, 3 or 4 times. So holding it this way, the reason I do this is it'll always drain down and it'll get a blob right there, and if it falls on your little painting, it's made a mess. And then take your thumb and pull this way, like that, and you can see the little spatter coming out. Kind of like a little airbrush. So that's the way we do that. Now then, I'd like to show you how I keep my cards and things in a box here and can get to them quickly. And we will mount this little card. I have 4 boxes of cards here. One is finished cards, one is blank cards, one is the envelope, one is ATG tape that we mount it on there with, and the other one's the watercolor paper. So I have them all separated and a little better organized than I really am, but it helps me a lot. So now we need a blank card. So I'll just open the box and fetch a blank card out of here. And there's the blank card. And I'll lay the little watercolor on it there. And then I will open the box that has the ATG tape in it. And this is the ATG tape, which means adhesive transfer gum. And they're just the right size. You have to be careful here. My spatter is still wet, so I'm going to dry it a second. And now I'll turn this over on here. And I'll take the ATG tape off the strip of paper like that and put a strip on each side of the card, and then with your fingernail pull the brown paper off. Didn't stay, and that leaves, or should leave, there it is, the ATG tape on there. There we go. And then I simply eyeball it and be sure that it's about where I want it on the card, that it's fairly square. And I press it down and put there. And there's our little greeting card, all ready to send. If we wanted to add one more touch to it, we would sign it. That's very important. And I usually sign these with just a little pen, or you can use your brush, a little rigger brush, because they need someone to sign it right over here. And I'm going to pick up just a little color and sign it very small. There, we're going to sign my name to it. Now then, and it's ready to go, and hopefully whoever gets it would be pleased to get the little card of greetings, and hope you're feeling better. You're a little like this card, you're a little under the weather, or whatever you want to say, but anyhow, that's one way to do greeting cards. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you.